I think it's time to start talking about WandaVision. Hi, I'm Graphical, and if you're watching this video, you're probably a little confused about the show WandaVision. Now, WandaVision is the first television show from Marvel Studios. Not to be confused with Marvel Television, which produced, I believe, Daredevil, Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, Iron Fist, Defenders, and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which is a whole separate department, and as you notice if you watch them, there wasn't really any overlap between them and the MCU at large that appeared in the films. You get a little mention here and there. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. had a small crossover, but nothing really else, and that's because the exec that worked head of Marvel Television and Kevin Feige, who worked Marvel Films or Marvel Studios, they clashed heads. And now since that guy's out, now we're getting shows, straightly connected to the MCU. So let's break it down. So WandaVision is a show that centers around Wanda Maximoff and the Vision, as you remember from the Avengers. And it starts off, within the town of Westview, and suburbs and everything. The first two episodes, black and white, and you probably notice that each episode takes a little bit from different TV genres. First one, the opening, was modeled after Dick Van Dyke. The second one was modeled after Bewitched, is very obvious. Second one, I believe, was modeled after the Brady Bunch a little bit. The next one was modeled after Family Ties. And of course, the most recent one, episode 6, was modeled after Malcolm in the Middle. Now, there's little Easter eggs here and there, especially in the intro, different things. Like, if you read the comics and you know the storylines, it's based off of about 3 different storylines. It gets influence from the Vision's 2016 solo series called The Vision, which, is him where he created a wife and some children, and he's kind of living a dark sitcom family type thing, kind of a Leave It to Beaver, type thing, but dark. So that's the influence for that. But the main elements it borrows from are 2 other stories: Avengers Disassembled, which the Avengers teams break up, and House of M. Now, the House of M storyline is when Wanda Maximoff went a little bit off the deep end and altered all of reality and changed everything around her, and she also brought to existence 2 kids. Now, if you've been watching the show, you probably recognize them, Tommy and Billy. Now, it's important. Wanda alone is not strong enough to do something like that, She brought Vision back from the dead, or, so it seems. In the comics, this was done in part by this being known as Mephisto, which you should see pictured here if I edit this correctly. Mephisto is basically Marvel's version of the devil, and he looks like the devil. He's been prominent in a bunch of different storylines, and one of them, the reason why I think he's involved in this is because of the storylines it's based off of. He's responsible for Tommy and Billy's existence. Wanda was not strong enough to make them on her own with her abilities, and Vision's dead. So part of his soul, in the comics by the way, this might happen in the series, might not, was imbued, and his soul created Billy and Tommy, who would eventually grow up to be the Young Avengers, Speed and Wickham. Which, if you saw episode 6, you saw in their Halloween costumes, they actually wore their comic accurate costumes. Pietro also, saw his hair. Cool. So why that's important? Well, when Mephisto came back to power, he took back parts of his soul, and it eliminated the kids from existence, and that kind of made Wanda snap in. That led to a famous moment in the comics where she uttered, "No more mutants," and she wiped out a huge population, a huge amount of the mutant population, and most of them got depowered, or something happened, or a few of them kept their powers. Now, that was a major thing that still has been felt through the comics. Now, it's possible that may be done in the TV show, and they may reverse that. If you remember in the recent episode with the Hex, by the way, her magic is called Hex powers, so that's a direct reference from the comics. You saw it was expanding, and she changed different things. She was able to change Monica Rambeau's outfit, and there's different things. By the way, in the comics, Monica was the previous Captain Marvel. She does have powers, so this may be a way to segue into that. And this may be the way they bring in mutants. You know, you see, changing the abilities, that thing expanding outward. Now, another reason I think Mephisto is behind all this, because he was involved in the comics, there's little things here and there. The most recent episode had Pietro back, and if you remember, it's Evan Peters who played Quicksilver, Pietro. That's the same in the comics. In the Fox's versions of the X-Men. Another thing you should keep in mind is that Mephisto, as I said, has ties to other characters. He has ties to Doctor Strange, Ghost Rider, and Blade, and a bunch of other characters, many of which are in the MCU or having upcoming shows. Blade has already been cast, and it's going to have a show later on. Ghost Rider, Moon Knight, those are all supernatural characters, and they've been part of the Midnight Suns, which have battled Mephisto and other supernatural forces, along with Doctor Strange. Now, Mephisto, another notable storyline was the One More Day storyline, or Brand New Day, where Peter Parker's identity, he revealed it during the Civil War storyline, which if you watch the movies, he did not, but in the comics, he does. And what happens is someone sends an assassin to try to kill Peter, accidentally kills Aunt May, and to bring her back to life, Peter makes a deal with Mephisto. And in return, to bring her back to life and also hide his identity, he had to give up his marriage to Mary Jane, and basically they can never be back together. That if they get back together, it would undo the spell, and everything would be undone. And if you watch the last Spider-Man movie, J. Jonah Jameson was there, and he revealed who Peter Parker was. So, and we also know that is going to have to do with the multiverse. So you see where I'm going with this? Doctor Strange is supposed to, the next movie, Multiverse of Madness, is supposed to lead directly after WandaVision. So we already know it involves multiverse, and Spider-Man, multiverse. So what I'm thinking is Mephisto is going to be the big bad behind this, possibly as Pietro, or as Agnes's husband, as we've seen like things background. And Agnes, we think may be this other character, Agatha, I can't remember her name, Agatha Darkwood, I don't know. She's a witch. But anyways, she's a character in the comics. That's who we're thinking of. It's obvious, you know, Agnes, Agatha, you know, look it up. So, if Mephisto's involved, it makes sense that he would be involved with Doctor Strange, and this is a way to introduce the concept of the character to the greater thing, because just to bring in a devil character out of the blue, it's not going to make sense. So I think they're going to use it as a way to retcon things with Spider-Man, so they can hide his identity and different things. There's some other speculation things I'm thinking about, is that it's going to be a way to kickstart like the supernatural stuff, you know, with the MCU, with in terms of Ghost Rider, as I said earlier, and why he's important. Ghost Rider's origin is connected to Mephisto. The original spirit of vengeance that was bonded to him was, in part, from Mephisto. A bargain he made to save, you know, someone's life. He said, hey, you know, I'm dying here, I need to come back. And he said, alright, you come back to life, but in exchange, I'm going to imbue you with this spirit. And whenever innocent blood is spilled, you will change into this spirit of vengeance. And you will go and get vengeance on them. You know, because you would think, like, why would Mephisto want that? Like, why would he want him to do good? It's not that he's doing good, it's that he's going and getting the wicked, the people who should belong in hell. He's getting them for him. See, it just happens to be he's doing good, but he's doing good for someone bad. So those are some of the reasons. The other things about the show, you should really go back and watch it again. There's plenty of Easter eggs all throughout it. Watch it again. There's references to the Vision comic book. In the first episode, there's this little helmet-looking thing that looks like Executioner, the Marvel comic character Executioner, who died in the Vision comic book series. And there was a reference also, Agnes was wearing a pin, which had a little Grim Reaper. Oh, sorry, not Executioner, Grim Reaper. For a little bit of speculation. One, I don't think that's necessarily a Pietro. Even though, you know, it's Evan Peters and everything, and it's the Fox version of him. I'm thinking that may actually be Mephisto in disguise, if it's not Agnes' husband. That's Mephisto. He makes a lot of references in the 6th episode. He tells the kids to raise hell. He calls them devil spawn. He says all kinds of things like that. You know. Another thing, that this may be a way to lead into maybe the Fantastic Four, since they're talking about other dimensions and stuff, which is possible. One theory is that the aerospace engineer or aeronautical engineer may be a reference to Reed Richards. We're not sure yet, but I do think we're going to have a major appearance. If I had to guess, I think Doctor Strange is going to make a showing at the end of this. Now, there's a few other little things here and there, speculation, as I said. Mephisto being involved, that it's going to tie in directly with Spider-Man. That, all this is going to lead up to the multiverse happening in Doctor Strange, and we're going to use as a way to maybe bring in the X-Men, and maybe a way to bring in Miles Morales also, because there's a huge demand for Miles Morales. And he was somewhat mentioned, his uncle was in the first Spider-Man movie, Homecoming. And he mentions his nephews, played by Donald Glover. He mentions that he has a nephew that's a big fan. So there's quite a few things that could happen here, and I know I should have done this video a few weeks ago before some episodes came out, but I kept putting it off, so this video is a little all over the place. So hopefully you like it, and hopefully this clears up some things with WandaVision. It's a very good show, a lot of Easter eggs. If you read the comics, there's so much more you're missing, so please read House of M, The Vision, the 2016 series, and Avengers Disassembled. You'll get so much more out of this, and you'll find out so much. So thank you for watching, and let me know what theories you have about WandaVision. Do you think it's Mephisto? Do you think that's actually really Quicksilver? Do you think it's him from another dimension? Do you think it's just, Evan Peters just playing the other guy, but not necessarily the same character? Who knows? Let me know. We'll know in a few days when I watch the next episode, because we got like 3 left. So let's find out. Thank you for watching. Subscribe.